Mini-terrain domain Sunless Citadel D&D mini-campaign is sponsored by our friends at Absolute Tabletop. A vast and loathsome shadow approaches. Coming Tuesday, September 4th from Absolute Tabletop. Introducing the upcoming Kickstarter for Absolute Tabletop's second volume of any nominated adventure kits, Shadows over Driftchapel. Shadows over Driftchapel is a fantasy horror adventure set in Gloam, a Victorian colonial-inspired world brimming with eldritch horrors, flickering gaslight, and destructive black powder. This versatile adventure-building resource contains everything you've come to love about adventure kits. Modular locations and encounters, intriguing NPCs and fulfilling plot lines, encounter and scene generators ready for on-the-fly use, plus a few extra stretch goals if you'll help fund beyond the initial goal. Hither comes the Gloam. On Tuesday, September 4th, the Kickstarter begins, and the monstrosities and madness of Driftchapel will be thrust upon you. Follow Absolute Tabletop on Kickstarter to get real-time updates and be one of the first to help fund their next adventure kit, Shadows over Driftchapel. Hey internets, it's Jake from Mini-Terrain Domain, and this is MTD&D's The Sunless Citadel. Episode 2, Where the Sun Doesn't Shine, a Tales from the Yawning Portal Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition mini-campaign with some crafty individuals. I am very fortunate to be joined by these 4 amazing players. We had a fantastic game last week to begin this mini-campaign, and we are all eagerly waiting for every Thursday to be able to continue to do this and bring this to all of you. And in just a moment, I'm going to introduce these 4 people. But first off, as you saw in the opening promo, this mini-campaign is sort of sponsored by Absolute Tabletop's latest Kickstarter for their adventure kit in the Gloam setting, Shadows over Driftchapel, which just launched this Tuesday, and in the first 2 hours was 100% funded and beyond. Last I checked, and it's been a few hours, I believe they were at, I don't even know what percentage, over 200%.
And so that is doing phenomenal. But keep the support coming, because there are tons of really cool. What are they called? Somebody help me out here. What are they called? The
Stretch goals.
Stretch goals. Thank you. Really cool stretch goals to add additional art, tables, and functionality to that. The adventure kits are an amazing creation from Absolute Tabletop. If you look down in the description, I think it's only on YouTube, but if you look in that description down there, you'll see the links to Absolute Tabletop's Kickstarter and so forth. So be sure to check that out, as well as absolutetabletop.com. Now, I'm going to introduce to you these 4 players. I'm going to have them take just a quick moment to introduce the characters they are playing, and then I'm going to give you a quick recap, and we're going to get into the action and play some make-believe for the next couple hours. So, we're going to start over here in this corner. Tonight, we are going to start with V.
That means I have to unmute. Hi, I'm V. I am the creator for the YouTube channel, The Crafting Muse, but tonight I am playing the character Cantriel Cavatina. She is an Eladrin elf who loves her music, loves her song, loves her witticisms, and is trying to figure out what's going on with her past after receiving a very mysterious note. And now she's also trying to figure out what's going on with Griveth after an interesting evening from the last session. So he's kind of on her radar at this point. We're going to see what happens. And she's realizing while she loves associating with everyone, not everyone loves associating with her.
Thanks, V. And next up, we have Jeremy.
Hey everybody, my name is Jeremy. I have the YouTube channel, The Erasmus Expeditions, where I do live plays kind of like this. I also have some videos where I discuss RPGs, and I just started posting crafting videos to my channel as well. I am also 1/3 of the podcast, The Dudes of Yore, with my buddies Jeff Doty and Chad Nick, also found on YouTube, where we talk about gaming. So yeah, I am bringing Talmud back to the table. Very excited to get back into his boots, and yeah, this is such a great group of people, and I could not be more excited to be here.
And we are very excited to have you here as well. Next up is Mini Terrain Domain. I think you have earned alumni status now, alumni, whatever the proper Latin word is. Megan.
Hey everyone, I'm Megan. I am one half of the YouTube channel Dice on Ice, where we do live plays. And tonight I am playing Vi, the always charming, always caring druid. So yeah, I'm super excited to jump back in. I loved the relationship everyone was having the first session, so I'm really excited to see what happens. So thanks for having me again.
And finally, we welcome Mr. DM Scotty, who is not the DM tonight, but I can't help but refer to you as DM Scotty. Scotty, introduce yourself and tell us who you're playing tonight.
Hey guys, I like to do a little bit of crafting. You may have noticed, I'd like to do that a little bit. And so I have the channel, theDMsCraft, and we have the Tabletop Crafters Guild, which is the Facebook group. So if you haven't checked that out, check that stuff out. And I am playing Griveth, the human paladin. This guy with a definitely not necessarily a dark past, but a troubled past. And he's found a bit of respite with Cantriel. And she doesn't really know why or what his background is, but hopefully she'll find out very soon, and we'll see how this goes. So I can't wait to play with these guys. It was really fun last time, and we had a really good rapport. So I'm ready to get it going.
Excellent. So, by way of quick recap, the new kid in town, Talmud, the dwarf barbarian, has pretty much just been in town a few weeks, and has as a sort of introduction, just kind of saw some of the ruins and started grabbing rocks, piling them up. And some of the powers that be in town are starting to see his value and how they can actually use his expertise to begin to rebuild. Next up, in town for a few months, Cantriel has set up semi-permanent residence in the Old Boar Inn, where Garen, in exchange for her lovely music, has provided her with room, board, and a steady stream of choice beverages. Next, Griveth, who has been serving at the local shrine under the auspices of Dem Corky Knackle, known simply as Corky, the gnome priest of Palor. He's been in town for about a year, and has gotten to know everybody as Corky and he have gone around town administering aid, medical aid, and what other help that people may need around the village of Oakhurst and the surrounding homesteads. And then we have Vi, who has been in this region for 15 years. She's been here long enough to see the first arrival 12 years ago of the goblins that have seemingly come from the ruins north of town, bearing a magical fruit that seems to only bloom once a year. And that the day of the fruit, Midsummer's Day, has come. But Vi and Griveth in particular also especially know some of the key people in town who Telemid also has a connection to, most notably Carowyn Hucreely, a human woman who is kind of like the head of the merchants in town. She runs the general store, and some would say she runs the town, though Werner Ling is the mayor, as his sash says. And Carowyn made it known that two of her children, her son and her daughter, Talgan and Sharwyn, had hooked up with some other human adventurers and gone to explore this so-called Sunless Citadel, and had been gone for several weeks, well over a month, with no sign. And she is offering monetary reward in exchange for her children, or at least their signet rings, as way of saying that the bodies have been found. Additionally, some are curious about the goblins that seem to show up with this fruit. And no matter what they do, every year when the people of Oakhurst try to plant the seeds from this fruit, it barely gets above sapling stage before the plant is stolen, it would seem. Everybody met in the tavern, as all good adventurers start out, and they learned of these various things. They learned that the goblin emissary was due the next day, so having agreed to take on these tasks and preparing to set out the next day, they were awoken in the early morning by the tolling of the shrine bell. And they, wiping sleep from their eyes, bleary-eyed, began moving out into the town square, where they saw others also arriving in the town square. Felosio, who is the constable, she's a half-elf, kind of grizzled war veteran woman, and with the help of the young lad Baron, was fastening her sword belts. As everybody saw the sallow, gray-skinned goblin in the middle of the town square, holding the brightest, most perfect apple any of you have ever seen. And it is here where we will pick up exactly where we left off. And we're gonna go around and just kind of get your initial reactions. as you are stumbling out. And I'm going to roll, because I like the D12. I'm going to roll me this D12. And it looks like Talmud, you're the first one to make it out. What is your reaction? How are you feeling as you're woken by these bells?
He steps out the stoop of the old boar inn, and then turns right around and leans against the wall, almost folded over in half, and just expels the contents of his stomach all over the ground. And he kind of stands up, and there's stuff in his beard, and he's just kind of, oh, the ringing in my head is killing me. What is going on? Why are there so many people awake at this time of the morning? This is not right. And he kind of staggers kind of where the rest of the crowd seems to be going.
Cantriel, you are the next one.
Have we left the inn yet, or we're still kind of making our way out?
That's up to you.
All right, so I'm going in to stagger out of the second bedroom that I borrowed for the evening, still kind of wrapped up, and I kind of look to Garen, who I'm assuming is still kind of in there. Yes?
Yes, Garen is already up, kind of taking care of some stuff. He does look a bit bleary-eyed.
Okay.
And as you stumble out, he is kind of taking his towel that he was cleaning the bar with, and he just kind of throws it over his shoulder, gives you a nod, and he starts heading for the door.
Like she does a quick nod back, and it's begun, hasn't it?
Aye, that it has.
All right, best wake the bear and make sure he's up and ready to go. I'm not sure if he's going to hear the tolling over that growl. So she toddles upstairs to what is her usual room to wake Griveth up. And she slowly opens the door, and I just kind of peek my head through. Griveth, it's time to move now. The bell's tolled. We have to go down. Are you awake yet?
Sorry. So the combination of you knocking and coming in, and the bell suddenly going off, he just jumps. He jumps in the chair, like almost jumps out of the chair, startled, and the blanket goes flying. He almost stumbles back into the chair and breaks the legs. He's so heavy, but the chair almost goes falling backwards. But he jumps up, and he's like, he must have been in some kind of deep sleep. So he wakes up, and he sees you at the door, and he looks over at the bed, and he realizes you weren't in the bed, but he doesn't say anything about it. And then he leaps up, quickly grabs his gear, and then follows you down.
Okay. So I just toss things back on the bed, and I'm grabbing my things as he's composing himself and letting it sort of go unnoticed for his own pride and ego.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Cantriel, are you following Griveth as he leaves to head out?
He left in such a rush. I have to.
All right. And so yeah, you guys make your way out, and you stumble out into the morning light where you see the crowd gathering around. And finally, Vi, what is your reaction this morning?
Vi steps out of the room that she had been given. She had already packed the evening before with all her various herbs and dried plants, and so she's just kind of putting on her satchel. She has her staff, her walking stick in one hand. She just kind of sighs. She lights a cigarette, and she kind of makes her way downstairs and outside. And I think that she would see Talmud not looking so hot. I see that salve didn't do too much.
No, I think that's some of it there on the top of the pile.
And she kind of like looks over, like just with this really disapproving look.
I told you, leaves don't agree with me. I'm not a vegetable person.
Ah, yes, it was the leaves that did that. Yes.
It had to have been. I've drinking like that all my life, and it's never bothered me that like, I'm going to walk away from this now. And he kind of turns and like steps some distance. What's everybody on about?
It's time for the
Time
apple, the
Apple. Oh, I thought that was a dream I had. Yes, that's right. They take some kind of vegetable from this goblin, and the goblin lets them live. Something to that effect, if I'm not mistaken.
You're not that far off, Talmud. As you hear the voice of Kirwin Hukreeli as she comes walking up behind you. Somehow, though you suspect she too may have just been awoken like everybody else, she seems to have her hair pulled back into a neat bun, and she's wearing her her merchant finery. Though you catch a glimpse as she's just kind of fastening some cufflinks under her robe sleeves. Right. The four of you. It appears as though this is going down a little bit earlier than we would have expected. Please, stay alert, but do not take any action against the goblin. Though there are mysteries here to be unraveled, we still need this apple. And then she calls over across the courtyard. Hey, Felociel, is all well? Yeah, we got everybody in position. As she kind of indicates all around the honor guard, as they were referred to, of several people with bows, crossbows, sword belts, positioned around the square, but keeping their distance from the goblin, who still stands there in the center of town holding this bright apple. Real quick, first point of order. As a reminder, at the end of last session, I gave everybody a point of inspiration. I want to make sure you recorded that. Not that you're going to need it or anything, but secondly, Griveth, what languages do you speak? You're muted.
Sorry about that. I do speak. I speak Orc and Common, and actually speak Dwarvish.
Okay. Vi, what about you?
Vi speaks Giant, Druidic, Common, and Elvish.
Talmud?
So I kid you not. I'll show you here where I have it written down if I can get it to show up on the camera. Common, Dwarven, and Goblin.
Excellent. And Cantriel?
I have Celestial, Common, Draconic, and Elvish.
Interesting. Okay. If you guys wouldn't mind throwing those into the chat, so I can reference those. As Keowen has just spoken to Felociel, the goblin seems to take some sort of cue from this. And everybody but Talmud, this is what you hear. Talmud, you hear, "Hey, from the Gubarakran, I am a Seri. I bring apple.
You give gold. Many gold. Much gold. We do this now.
And Felocial, and this exchange starts happening. And Talmud, are you going to translate, or are you just keeping it to yourself that you know Goblin?
I don't know that in his current mental state that he's really like aware of other people's issues at the moment. So he's kind of just like trying to see if he can garner anything unexpected from the conversation. So far, everything has sounded like a normal, well, what they described as was the normal transaction. So as of now, he's just kind of
Okay.
sitting there.
So this exchange is taking place for a moment in Goblin as Felocial returns and says,
You're early. Me not take time. Me look at sun. Midsummer sun is highest. Longest day. We bring apple. You give gold, many gold. You're gonna have to speak in the common tongue, as we've told you before.
and there's no translation. You just hear,
Fine. I speak in common tongue. Filthy words of goodly races.
you can all now hear what he is saying.
I, emissary of Dubarek clan. It midsummer. I bring apple. You give gold. We're gold. Many golds. Yeah, we got your gold.
And she kind of just holds her hand out. Felocial does, like she's expecting something. She's reaching back. And then she looks back, like... And you see Baron kind of go, "Oh, yeah, sorry, Felocial." Oh, and he picks up this bag of gold coins, and he's like, "I've got it in here." And he drops it on the ground. Some of them spill. He's like putting them back in, and eventually she sets it in his hand, or he sets it in her hand, and she holds it out to the goblin, to the emissary.
You give us the apple. You'll give gold.
She kind of looks over at Keowen.
Every damn year. At the same time, emissary.
They hold it out, and he holds out this apple that in one hand, it's just so huge in his hand. And it kind of seems to just almost like it's floating there as he holds this apple out. And suddenly, he snatches the gold sack from Felocial. And she kind of pushes his hand away from the apple, takes it and pulls it toward her. In her half-elven hands, it's still a huge apple, but it's not quite as small as it seemed before in the goblin's hands. The emissary stands, and he's looking around.
This all gold you have? This is much gold. Is not many gold. What is this? Oh, is gold. You have any more gold?
And Felocial just looks at him and says,
Bugger off. Maybe we'll see you again.
and he starts to kind of move away in the direction of where some of the honor guard with the crossbows are. And they seem to kind of, even though they're a good 20, 30 feet away in this kind of circle, they seem to just kind of step away to form a path for the goblin to move through. And he starts walking away. He weighs the gold in his hand. He turns back over his shoulder to look at Felociel. And he says, in Goblin, so Talmud, you're the only other one that understands this.
Maybe we see you in the winter solstice, yes?
And then there's just this puff of smoke as he just takes off running through the dust and disappears soon around the buildings and out of sight. As he disappears, you can see that the people of Oakhurst that have gathered, and all of the honor guard, Felociel, Kon, Mayor Wernerling, they all visibly relax. They were tense. Everybody looking around, waiting for something. Kaowin turns to all of you and says, well, it went as expected, but we always anticipate that it could go so much worse. So, I don't know what your plan is, but the day is yours, and you are free to begin your quest at your convenience.
Not to put a damper on things early, but I'm pretty sure that we were supposed to be following that goblin.
I'm not here to tell you how you should be doing your particular missions.
Well, I suppose maybe I should go get my shoes on and pack a few things before we're ready to leave.
Saying you didn't pack last night?
No, I didn't pack last night. I was busy. Look, I am very sorry to inconvenience you. It won't take me very long. I don't have very many things.
Here's to hoping you get it tracking.
We'll see. He kind of heads upstairs to go get things ready.
You get to the front door of the tavern, and Garen is standing there, and he's holding your things. And he kind of, in one hand, he's holding one last bottle of Kirgan, and he just slides it into your rucksack as he says, I shouldn't give this to you, seeing the state of your room. You know, on the other side of your bed, there was a vomit bucket.
Yeah, I looked around for it for at least an hour.
I could tell everywhere you looked but where the bucket was, because that's where the mess is.
I'm very sorry. I'm embarrassed. If there's anything I can do to make it up to you, Garen, I'm sure I'll be back soon.
Not too soon.
Oh.
I put one last bottle of Kirgan in there for you.
You're a saint.
Now don't come back too soon. And then he kind of stops for a moment and he looks back and he says, but do come back.
I will certainly try my hardest. Good day to you, Garen.
And Cantriel's going to lean over to Garen. She goes, you just had to give him the hair of the dog, didn't you?
I just want it out of here, and he's your problem now.
Clearly.
Hey, you come back too. All of you.
I have every intention to. Garen, thanks for being a friend to me. I don't have many of them.
He kind of turns all red as the morning rising sun again, as he just kind of, don't mention it. Just don't make me go too long without hearing your music.
It's a promise. And she leans in and gives him a quick peck on the cheek.
Right? And he turns and goes in. All right. The day is yours. However you wish to, if you wish to hit the road immediately, or if there's anything else you want to do.
So while the other two went in the inn for real quick, I assume Vi and I were kind of standing around, and I asked her, I say, Vi, I wasn't here early enough last year to see this trade-off, this kind of, apple ceremony. Was there anything different about this ceremony than last year or the years before?
The only thing that was different about this one was that it was earlier, right, Jake?
Yep.
Okay. This one was earlier. Hence
Why don't you give me an insight check?
Well, that wasn't very informative.
14.
The only other thing you would have noticed is that the Goblin emissary, you're fairly certain he's been the same emissary, if not the whole time, at least for the last few exchanges. But he seemed, in addition to being early, he just seemed a lot more confident and a little cocky this time around. Normally they're very sheepish, very kind of timid. They tend to try to haggle a little bit, but this one didn't.
But now that you mention it, it's odd. It's almost like might have known something we didn't.
Do you think maybe it's the children? They know they have the children. Why didn't he bring that up? Why didn't he bring up... I would assume they would know some of the people in this town. And why didn't he bring up that they had prisoners? Seems odd to me.
You say you have prisoners and they might be alive. To imagine the uproar. Every farmer, every member of the town would go up in arms because they know, because of that hope. You don't give them hope, you give them uncertainty. Then there's no reason.
True. But goblins, I find, usually have, if they have some kind of bargaining chip over you, they like to, they like to use it against you. But
Yes.
You may be right.
They're usually not that smart, but I assume whoever they get this apple from might be telling them something.
Do you have any idea about this apple? Where do you think it comes from?
She takes another inhale of her cigarette and just kind of exhales slowly. No idea.
You've never seen anything like it in your wanderings or in your writings.
Wanderings. I've lived here 15 years. I've done no wanderings.
How about in your dusty books? Have you ever read anything of its like?
Listen, I don't know what kind of person you think I am. I just heal people when I can. This apple, it's a miracle. But I don't waste my time looking around dusty books for something that might give me more information. I know what I can do, and that's it.
I understand. I am sorry to intrude into your personal life like this. I know we don't know each other very well.
You're one of those holy people, it It's in your nature. It's fine.
I try not to judge. Sometimes it doesn't work so well.
She just kind of nods and she says, but I have to say, what I have seen you do for this town, you're doing all right.
I'm trying. I wish they'd hurry up so we can get moving.
So yeah, this would be about the time of the exchange with Talmud, Cantriel, and Garen, and the four of you are together. And unless there's anything else you want to do in town, you can. You need to head to the north along the old road.
All right, so I'm gonna come out with Talmud just in front of me and kind of like helping him towards the rest. Let's move it. You've had plenty of time. He had it ready for you. You're lucky you had that going. Let's go before he beats the rest of them off.
I need to stretch. If I
don't care about the stretching. I care about the moving.
This is unbelievable. I can't believe I'm being pushed around by an elf.
I can't believe I have to push a dwarf around.
All the things that they say about all of you are true.
I know. And you too. Let's go.
I'll just have you know, it's not very polite. And he'll kind of catch up to the others. Well, what are we waiting for?
Well, you sure are taking a long time, considering you're the one who mentioned, I thought we were following that goblin.
If I had been told that was happening in this morning, I could have put my boots on before I came outside. But no, I had to get woken out of a dead sleep by those bells.
Well, hopefully we can track it.
All right, so who's doing that then? Probably you, right? He kind of looks at the elf. Your people do things in the wilderness all the time. They look in dirt.
Do I look like I roll around in the mud?
But I don't know. Do you?
Well, you do.
Well, sometimes sometimes a dwarf has to catch his dinner.
Perhaps someone who's a little bit more one with nature and seeing how things are adjusted might be better versed in this.
Such as?
I kind of give a sidelong glance over at Vi.
Oh, yes. Good morning, bear lady.
Ask nicely.
I'm always nice. What was your name again?
Just for that, you don't get to know until at least tomorrow.
Oh, it's like a riddle. I see. Very well. I'm very keen on the riddles, I'll have you know. We'll have it solved soon. You look in the dirt for things.
All right. So I'm getting the feeling that nobody has a particular skill at tracking. So hopefully the tracks are very easy to follow, and we can just. So let's stop the bickering, and let's the day is wasting. Let's move on and see if we can find this trail. Is everybody agreed in that?
Yeah, Talmud kind of shifts over by Griveth as if to say, yeah, we should, yeah, of course.
Teacher's pet.
All right, shall we move out? And as we move out, you notice Griveth has his war gear, so he's got he's got a morning star, this huge morning star. So this thing is a pretty wicked looking weapon. And then he's also got a shield, and it has the insignia of Eldath, and that's kind of a waterfall falling into a pool. And he wears kind of muted bluish colors, as that's kind of the more of a peaceful, red is kind of like the warlike, and aggressive, and blues kind of represents the more peaceful approach. So that's what he looks like as we move out.
As you guys begin to leave the town, which is already roughly 15 to 20 minutes has gone by while you were waiting for Cantriel and Talmud, and while you kind of carried on your conversation a little bit. And already people seem to be settling into the normal morning routine. Though a few more of Velocial's guards seem to be roving the streets, particularly near the north side of town, than usual. Just staying on alert for any shenanigans that may come from the Gobos. As you start heading out to the north side of town, all of you have been here long enough to know that this part of town very quickly gives way to the old road and a handful of abandoned farms. There's actually some bits of, this would be Talmud, where you would have found some of the ruined areas near the town, because very quickly this begins to move up against the Ashen Plain, an area that is completely lifeless. No crops will grow, no livestock can flourish there. It has a very desolate feel to it. And this road hasn't been used. Nobody comes here from the north, save for the Goblin emissary. So are you doing anything, Griveth, in particular, or anybody else, to try to track the Goblin specifically?
How obvious is the trail? I mean, is it pretty obvious, or is it hard to follow?
Give me a survival check.
Oh, okay. 15.
So you can see where, once you kind of get out and the road kind of curves slightly to the west, and you can see where the Goblin's footprints are very easy to follow in the dust. For about a couple hundred yards, and then they deliberately move off into the gravel and seem to skip across some rocky terrain. And after about another 100 yards, you realize that the dust all around the area is covered in goblin tracks going every which way. And they're relatively fresh. But none but this one goblin emissary's footprints ventured any closer than, say, a quarter mile to town. But it just seems that there's been a lot of goblin traffic here relatively recently, and their footprints go every which way, and then seem to sort of just fade into the brush and the rocks. By brush, I mean like scrub brush, like those dry tufts of thick grass that's been dead for a long time, kind of thing.
Can I still pick the trail out?
You can, if you're gonna, are you gonna continue just try to pick it out as you move along the road then?
Yeah. So it's funny, Erasmus and Cantriel, as you had this whole fight about her being, the elf, and she should be able to track and all this stuff, and you actually notice that Griveth is actually fairly good at this. Like, he's very perceptive, and he's essentially leading you on the trail. So he's done very well so far. So it's kind of a funny joke that he's actually pretty good at it. Okay. So do I make another roll?
Yeah, I need another survival check. And
okay.
I'm going to say, because you already kind of picked up on the trail, I want you to do it with advantage.
Oh, good. 20.
Is that a dirty 20 or a nat 20?
Dirty 20.
Dirty 20. All right. At first, you think you lose the trail in the scrub brush and the rocks. And then you see about 15 feet away where the tracks seem to have... It's almost as if the goblins were leaping from tuft to rock to tuft, trying to stay out of the dirt. But every so often, they're jumping too far, and you see a scrabble of footprints and handprints a couple goblin face prints in the dirt where they're scrabbling over each other. And they seem to be following off to the west edge of the road, but following in the same direction of the old road to the north.
So do I think they're trying to lose us by using the rocks, but they just
You
they
get the
fumbled
sense
up
that they were deliberately
times.
trying to hide their numbers. And the Ashen Plain does not... You can actually see quite a ways, and you don't see any sign of like way ahead. I mean, granted, you guys waited around 15, 20 minutes, but you don't see like far ahead any like little dust clouds or anything to indicate that they're traveling ahead of you. And so as you continue walking along this kind of rocky, downy area, you start to see a few old growth oak trees, more off to the east side of the old road, and very sparse. The abandoned farms soon give way completely to the Ashen Plain. And then, after a few miles, the road begins to pass close on the west side to this ravine, very narrow ravine. And after about a couple hours of walking along here, it takes you a couple hours to make it about the 7 miles outside of town, where you can see coming up some pillars, stone pillars that rise up 15, 20 feet where the road passes closest to the ravine. A couple of them are broken off. They have this appearance almost like jagged fingers reaching into the sky. And on the opposite side of the ravine, you see a similar stand of pillars. And as you approach these pillars, you can, because there's nothing obscuring it, and it's the morning sun is shining brightly now, you can see that one of the pillars closest to the ravine edge has a thick hempen rope tied around it and knotted securely, and the end of the rope dangles down into the ravine. What would you like to do?
Erasmus, how secure do you think these, or sturdy do you think these pillars are?
Talmud walks over to the closest one, probably the one. Yeah, it walks up to the closest one with the rope tied around it. He kind of takes his beard in his chin, or his beard in his hand, and kind of strokes it a couple of times as he walks around it, and then he just straight up leans back and kicks it. Does it wobble at all?
Not in the least.
It's very sturdy. This is probably dwarven construction, honestly.
I'm not even going to make you check for that. It actually is dwarven construction. These pillars are very worn, but you can see some of the telltale layered edges and angular features that are weather worn, but that are signifiers of dwarven pillars.
Yeah, he leans in and kind of scratches at one of the places where some of the detritus and stuff is gathered up. See, yes, right here. There's no tool marks. If this were human made, there would be tool marks all over the place, even though it's been out in the weather for so long. But here, smooth as a baby's bottom.
Griveth, were you still investigating, trying to keep the trail as you approach this area?
Oh, yes.
Give me one last survival check.
Okay.
Or investigation.
Okay. I'll do survival. That's a 15.
You can see that there are a gathering of several of these tiny footprints. Not nearly as many as what you were initially tracking. You also see signs that there are numerous signs of old small campfires all around this area, as if numerous parties have camped at various times along here. Some of them are quite old, but there are a couple that are a month or less ago. What would you like to do?
If we glance down the ravine, do we see where the rope goes to?
You can actually see that there's this kind of sandy ledge that's overlooking this just gulf of darkness down below. You can see that there is a bit of a ledge down below that you can just make out some sand and rock and glint of the white bones of several small creatures or animals. And you think you can just catch the faint edge of some rough-hewn stairs descending further into the darkness. And it is this ledge that the rope descends down to.
Well, friends, this seems to be our moment of truth. What say you?
Well, I guess what goes up must go down, and this is their down.
Are you sure? And you can just see Vi is just, she's gripping her walking stick very tightly as she kind of peeks over the edge. And you're sure this is where the path leads?
I am. And I kind of touch her on the arm and like whisper into her ear, you know, we all have fears and we must overcome them.
Oh, there's nothing to be
we shall help
fearful.
you. We shall help you.
She kind of like stiffens, but her eyes just don't leave the ledge. But she would just...
He seems to recognize us fear in you, like he's familiar with it.
You shouldn't be afraid. It's Earth. It's nice. It's solid. You couldn't be safer around anything else, honestly.
Perhaps you should be the one to go down first to show that your brethren did an excellent job in this build and that it truly is a safer descent than what it might actually look like.
That is a great idea. See? Watch. And he kind of walks straight over to the rope and starts making kind of an impromptu harness as he kind of hauls up the end.
You actually, as you grab hold of the rope, you can see that it's been knotted at about 2 foot intervals.
Oh, well, they're ready for us. That's good. He kind of slings Goethe onto his back and takes a knot under each of his hands and kind of backs up to the edge where he kind of looks back over his shoulder a couple of times, then kind of sits himself almost over the empty space, and then just starts walking down the wall.
All right. Yeah, and bracing yourself against the wall and using the knots of the rope, it's actually pretty easy to descend down this rope. You descend 50 feet till you reach the end of the rope, and you have to drop about 5 feet down to the ledge. The rope's kind of dangling. It's not like leaning. Yeah. It's just up because they have it tied off around the pillar. So you got about a 5 foot drop to land on the ledge itself. And the ledge is I don't want you thinking you're dropping onto this like narrow ledge. It's a good 20 by 30 foot area.
As Talmud will drop the last distance, kind of hopefully landing on his feet, he gets up and kind of looks around, trying to figure out how the goblins use this to get out of here. If there's a stair or a small rock that they might move over here or something to that effect.
So why don't you give me a survival check or investigation. And are the rest of you descending?
I'll go after him. But first, I look into Vi's eyes. Why don't you say I go next? See how it goes. I'll hold the rope steady at the bottom for you. Would that be some help for you?
Yeah, of course. It's just my age. I'm not sure if my bones can. Yeah, I'll go next after you.
All right. Something tells me your bones can handle it, just from the strength you've already shown. And so I put my gear towards my back, and I grab the rope, and I just start working my way down, kind of whistling a tune to make it seem a little bit more effortless, perhaps, than it actually is, and lighten the mood a little bit too.
So as the rest of you are descending down, Talmud, you're kind of looking around, and why don't you go ahead and just say what you got for the benefit of the audience?
Yeah, so my first roll of the evening, right out of the gate, is a natural 1.
Excellent.
So we're off to a great start.
So you're kind of looking around, and now that you're down here, you can see the chasm walls that are now 50 feet towering above you. You see Cantriel already descending the rope, and the others just kind of peering over the edge above. And you're kind of admiring, looking over to the other side as you see 250 feet across to the west is the other side, where you can just make out the jagged fingers of broken pillars on that side of the chasm. And you're kind of just looking around and maybe taking a step or two back as you're looking, and I want you to make a dexterity check. I think I'm going to call this a saving throw.
All right.
I don't know if that hurts you or harms you, but...
Neither. That is a 9 total.
So, as you're walking, just kind of generally, just as you do, as you're kind of like trying to take in this sight, and you take a step back, you take another step back, and as you put your foot back the third time, the balls of your feet touch on the sandy stone, and you go to put your weight on your heel, and there's nothing there. And you just kind of teeter for a second, and you fall backwards. And you take 4 points of bludgeoning damage as you tumble 20 feet down some rough-hewn stairs. Just kind of tumbling backwards and half tumbling, half sliding. Cantriel, below you, you hear the clatter of... remind me what your Girta is on your back?
Girta is my maul.
So you hear that clattering of the maul as he falls back on it. And you kind of hear that...
Ooh. Oh!
That didn't hurt. That didn't hurt. That hurt.
Yeah, the thud. And then... I'm okay. I found the bottom of the stairs, though.
And you're actually... The way you're sprawled, you're on a much smaller surface. It's only about 5 foot wide, about 10 foot long. And your arm... you got like 1 foot kind of up on the steps you just fell down. And your arm is kind of hanging over another set of switchback stairs that descend even further down. And your head is actually kind of leaning just over the edge of another 20 foot, actually a 40 foot drop.
I'm going to look
down. That's what happens when you roll in that one.
I'm going to look down at him and, are you at least still breathing?
Yes. It's like I said, I'm fine. I'm sure.
Just promise me you won't move.
Oh, all right. I won't move.
Thank you. That'd be appreciated.
He kind of twitches.
So I'm going to try and get myself down as well to the landing at least.
Cantriel, you are able to make it down to the landing. You get to the end. You also have that same 5-foot drop before you get down. And whoever is next begins to descend. I believe, Vi, you were going to go next.
Vi, she is like just muttering to herself as she begins her descent. Well, if a half-drunk asinine dwarf can do it, so can I. Come on, Vi, you can. And she just starts her way down to the ledge.
Cantriel, what are you doing while you're standing there? You've got Talmud sprawled up down below on the stairs, and you've got Vi making her way down the rope.
I'm holding the rope in one hand to keep it steady and to make it feel more secure for her as she's working her way down. And I'm sort of looking up at her, looking down at him, just making sure both are doing okay.
Cantriel and Talmud, I would like you to make perception checks.
It's a 13.
I got a 16.
A 16? All right. Vi, you are able to make it down the rope, especially with Vi or Cantriel holding onto it. It's not swaying quite as much. You've got the knots and the rocky wall to kind of brace your feet against, and you make it down. And all that's left is Griveth. If you have no qualms, Griveth, you can easily climb down the rope as well.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty tall. I did that leap pretty easily. But it's like, yeah, I see poor Talmud down, in a not gracious position down at the bottom of the stairs, and I know Dwarvish, so I don't say anything. But there are certain signs that the clans use, and I kind of do the sign like to him to show that, like, oh, there you go. You we were already just started and already you've messed up. A kind of like like a Dwarvish joke,
Talmud just kind of like waves his hand like, yeah.
Cantriel's still holding the bottom of the rope and looks over to Vi. You made it down. You're safe. But we have a little friend who might need some tending to be sure he can actually function.
You are quite right. I suppose he needs to be useful, if he is.
Theoretically.
And Vi would immediately begin going after or towards Talmud, and during this she's kind of taking out different leaves and sprigs and all that, and just kind of holding them in her hand as she's making her way down to Talmud.
And as she's running down, Cantriel shouts, I know you didn't like the medicine last time, but I think this time, regardless if there's sugar on a spoon, you best have it.
No, what are you... Are those more of those... No. Look, lady with the smoking lady, whatever your name is, just keep your plants. I will be fine, I'm sure.
And
as you say this, Talmud, you feel a sharp piercing as your hand is suddenly engulfed in the mouth of the giant rat that was slinking up the stairs that you failed to notice. It bites down on your forearm, dealing 5 points of piercing damage as it shakes its head vigorously as it took you by surprise. And I now would like all of you to roll for initiative. Because, Talmud, you can now see there are 3 giant rats coming up the stairs. One of which is firmly latched onto your hand. So I will ask for your initiative numbers here in just a moment. Let's see how the rats did. Okay, Griveth, what'd you get? Muted.
I got a natural 2021.
All right. Cantriel.
14.
Vi.
15.
And Talmud. You're muted.
I got a 17.
All right, so the order is going to be Griveth, Talmud, Vi, Cantriel, rats. So, as you hear Talmud, I don't know, do you cry out in pain, in surprise, Talmud?
Yes, absolutely. It's probably a little delayed. The thing like bites down and he kind of looks at it in disbelief for just a second. And then his like eyes go wide and he just starts screaming, "Ah!"
And that's about the time, Vi, you were kind of already heading down towards him, and you kind of suddenly you see these rats coming up the steps, and it is now your turn to act, Griveth. Keep in mind, you are at the top of a set of stairs that descends down about 20 feet to even get to where Talmud and the rats are.
Can I make it there?
Yeah, your speed's probably 30, right?
Yes.
Yeah. You can just get down to where the first rat is.
Okay. Are these things like normal rats, or are they?
These are ROUSs. These are
Oh, okay.
rodents of unusual size.
Okay, got it. Okay, so I see the thing take a bite into my friend, and I kind of push past the lady. He's gonna rush down the stairs, and stop right at Talmud and bring my armored foot back and try to kick this thing off the cliff.
Okay, give me a strength check.
All right. Oh, natural 1.
I rolled low too, but I didn't roll that low. Okay. In this case, I'm gonna need a dexterity saving throw from you.
You got it. 5.
Let's see. That's Talmud. You see Griveth come rushing down and almost kind of straddle you as he goes to kick this thing off of you. And you see his heavy foot just almost like past your face. And the rat releases your arm and moves away and just misses getting kicked. But Griveth has his full force going into this with his heavy booted foot. You hear as his other foot slides and the sort of sandy ledge crumbles beneath his other foot, and he begins to fall over the edge. Talmud, you can, at disadvantage, you can attempt to grab
Perfect.
at Griveth.
Disadvantage. What kind of a roll would you like?
That's going to be a dexterity check, just to see if you can catch any part of him as he falls.
Talmud!
That's not too bad. 12 total.
All right. And Griveth, give me at disadvantage a dexterity check.
Dexterity check.
Yep.
8.
As you're falling, you're scrabbling, trying to reach at any part of Talmud or the walls, anything, and you just seem to kind of miss at his hand, and you miss as you start to fall over the edge, And at the last second, Talmud, reaching backwards as you're still kind of laying on your back prone, you hook into part of his... what kind of armor are you wearing, Griveth?
It's chainmail.
You get kind of caught up in the bunching of the chain under his simple gauntlets. Kind of everything just binds up, and now you're just kind of holding as he's putting pressure on your arm like this. And I want to strength check Talmud just to see if you can stop him.
Would you like a check or a saving throw?
Check.
Okay, a check is going to be a 15.
It's putting a tremendous strain, but it's actually fortunate that you're laying prone and sprawled with your weight distributed. As Griveth, you stop falling, and you are able to grab hold of the arm that Talmud is holding you with, and that is going to be the end of your turn as you're left hanging. All of this, Cantriel and Vi, you see this happening just in the space of a few seconds, and it is now Talmud's turn.
So Talmud, being a barbarian, he doesn't wear a whole lot of clothing, especially on the top. And so his arm that he's got stuck out there grabbing Griveth is just completely bare. And it's one of these like Schwarzenegger in his classic, moments where the muscles on his arm are just stupid large, and he's making this hideous face as he's straining with his arm kind of held out. I would like to do everything that I can to roll over, grab him with the other hand, the one that's damaged, and then haul his ass back up onto this ledge.
Excellent. I love it. Now that you have control of the situation, and I'd already said that it was prone that kind of helped you to get a hold of him, that's going to cancel out any disadvantage you would have, so you can do a straight strength roll to just try to physically haul him up. And actually, Griveth, because you kind of got control when he saved you, and you do have hold of his arm, and you are hanging over an edge, you can help. So that's going to push you back into advantage.
Awesome.
Okay, so with the advantage, that gives me a 19 total.
What does it look like as you pull this human paladin, this bear of a man, up over the edge where he almost plummeted 40 feet?
So he's got this one arm kind of hyperextended out behind him, and he kind of grunts and rolls over onto his stomach and grabs a hold of just whatever he can get a hold of. It might even be like the lip of his helmet or something. And he just kind of starts to stand up, get onto his knees, leaning back as much as he can. He's kind of scraping poor Griveth kind of through the edge of this rock, and there's just sand like all in his stuff. And he pulls him to where he's, at least his upper half is kind of bent over the edge of the ledge. And then he reaches down and grabs his belt and just kind of drags him forward and pats him on the back. Don't do that. That's not a great idea. I tried it, Griffith, but...
Griveth looks up at him in relief and exhales, and then gives him the dwarvish sign of, I owe you one.
Yes, it will settle up later.
Okay, yeah. I was worried we were going to lose a character already. Two nat ones in this first section. All right, Talmud, you've managed to successfully pull him up. The dwarf and the human are now lying there in the dirt at the bottom of the stairs below you, Vi. And the 3 giant rats are still there. What are you going to do?
Vi is just... She stops dead as soon as she sees these rats. And she's just... I can't heal you until you get rid of those things. And then she's just going to like kind of take a few deep breaths, and she's going to take her quarterstaff, her walking stick, and she's going to hold it right at the end so that there is as much stick as possible between her and this rat. And she is just going to try and she holds it over her head, and she's just going to try and bring it down on this rat. And she's actually, for anyone who is looking, you actually see this kind of spark of energy almost that flows from her hands and illuminates the staff for an instant. And she's using shillelagh.
Excellent. So go ahead and roll your attack.
That is a dirty 20.
That is absolutely going to hit the giant rat. So roll damage.
That is going to be 7 points of damage.
Holding this staff by the end and empowering it with a little bit of your druidic magic, you can still feel that kind of sickening thud as the staff connects with the rat's skull. And then the sort of the feel as it gives, as its skull cracks and your staff actually penetrates its skull and extends a good 6 or 8 inches into its skull and body as it just slumps next to where Talmud was lying on the stairs. And as you quickly, just in that same action, pull it out, its dead body just sort of slumps over the edge of the stairs, where it falls onto another set of stairs further down below, bounces off, and falls into the darkness. And let me make a quick check. Sorry, but the other 2 rats are holding their ground.
Yeah, Vi just kind of like recoils and just kind of takes a... All right. Okay.
And about 6 or 8 inches of the end of your shillelagh-infused staff is now covered in bits of rat brain and gore. So then that takes us to Cantriel next.
Now I can see them, right? The 2 rats?
Yep, you're still up at the top.
All right, I'm going to cast Vicious Mockery on the one that's closest to us. I'm going to look it dead in the eye and say, your mother was a cute wee bunny who curled up on a bed late at night and cuddled with everyone.
Is there...
Must succeed on a wisdom saving throw.
Do the creatures have to be able to understand language to be affected?
Nope, need not understand me.
Yep, that's a different spell. All right, so it's that was a DC 16 wisdom?
Wisdom 13.
Oh, 13. These rats are so wise. Let's see. So that one, you cast it on the one closest, right?
Yeah.
With a 9, that is a fail.
Okay, cool. So then it's going to take 1 point of psychic damage, but it has disadvantage on its next attack.
1 point?
Yeah, psychic damage.
You hear it give out a kind of pained squeal, and it kind of falters in its movement a moment, and it's actually going to lunge at... I imagine at this point, Vi, you're the closest one to it because of your having attacked the previous one. And it is going to...
And that's with disadvantage.
Yep. I am going to roll my Atcon die and my copper D20. And with disadvantage, that's an 8 on both dice. Does a 12 hit you? A 12 does not hit you, Vi.
Nope.
This thing just kind of lunges up, and it still seems to be kind of shaking its head, and there's just this snap, snap, snap of its jaws, but it barely even gets close to your feet. The other one scrabbles over it, and it is also going to attack at you, being the closest. That is going to be a 14, which also misses your AC, I believe. No, it doesn't.
14 hits.
Sorry, I was looking at the wrong number. So this one, it kind of pushing off of the body of the first one. It comes up, and there's this kind of... And you see these just really long fangs as it bites into you, into your leg, dealing 6 points of piercing damage as it's these disgusting yellow teeth just sink into the meat of your leg. Excuse me. And that's going to end the rat's turn. Which is going to bring us back to Griveth. You are currently prone, so it will take half your movement to return to standing if that's what you wish to do.
I do, and I try to muster it with as much dignity as I can pull together. So Vi has one nipping at her, and both of them are near her, right?
Both of the rats, yes. They're basically at her feet.
Okay. So I assume we're all in pretty close proximity, right?
At this point, you guys are crowded into a pretty tight space on the stairs and the small landing.
Okay. So I see the situation, and I interpose myself in between Vi and the rats. So kind of not pushing her out of the way, but like, nudging her back behind me as I slip in front of her. And then I am through with this, and I'm embarrassed from my horrible showing earlier. So I'm just going to bring my mace down and just squish one of these suckers.
Okay.
I mean, my morning star. Sorry.
Do you want to strike at the one that just bit Vi or the other one?
The one that just bit Vi.
All right. Roll the attack.
Oh, nat 20.
All right. And for those on the stream that are watching and don't already know this, the way I do nat 20s is maximum damage, then roll your damage dice one more time. We're going to see just how devastating this blow is to this rat.
I got 15 points of damage.
You killed this thing twice. I'm going to give you narrative control since you nat 20'd that. So you go ahead and tell us how you kill this. You one-shot this rat.
Okay. So I glanced at Vi, stepped in front of her. I'll take care of this. Swing this, this morning star, grab it off my belt, swing the morning star down. The thing tries to dodge, but it misjudges, and just the morning star just square on it, and you guys just hear the horrible cracking of bone, and blood sprays all over the rock wall, and then I lift my mace up, I lift my morning star up, and it's stuck in one of the spikes of the morning star, and I kind of just wring it off, and it goes flying off into the darkness. Unfortunately, the blood sprays all over my friends.
Yes, there's this as it releases. There's this arc of blood that seems to just, in the morning light, it's just catching as the sun's starting to lighten into this gorge a little bit more, and there's just this moment of, like in 300, where it seems like suddenly the action slows with the as the blood then picks up speed and sprays. You all end up with a stripe across some part of your body, a stripe of giant rat blood. And yes, Telma, you probably you were kind of on your stomach, so you may have a stripe across your back or something, but yes, a nice counterbalance, Scotty, to the really. Nat ones that were prevailing initially.
We now have a name, Rat Slayers.
You barely survived the stairs, but you're rat slayers. And with that, with one rat remaining, Talmud, you also are prone. It will take half your movement to rise.
He will do so. He's not worried about his dignity, however. He lost that ages ago. He's going to rise and kind of dust himself off as he reaches down and picks up Gerta, where she kind of has come loose from his back during all of this rolling around. Most of the work is already done already. Here's one. And he kind of steps over there and brings his maul up over his head and down at this rat.
All right.
For a 23 to hit.
That is definitely going to hit.
Okay. That is 12 points of bludgeoning damage.
So, how do you slay this last rat?
The head of Gerta, the maul, just comes down and flattens this thing's head right on a spot that is where the rock is kind of exposed. And there's like a starburst pattern on the ground as he kind of picks his maul up, and there's like gray matter dripping off of it. That's very gross.
And with that, you are out of combat. And Megan, I apologize. I didn't mean to take narrative control of your kill there. I didn't realize I had done it. I generally like to let you guys, when you do kill a creature, have the narrative to describe how you kill that. So I apologize, Megan, for taking your narrative control there. But you are out of combat. All three rats are now very brutally dead. And a couple of you have suffered some wounds. You, as you're catching your breath, literally only a dozen seconds have passed, if that, since Talmud fell down the stairs and all hell broke loose. And so much seems to have happened. And you are quickly feeling that adrenaline that was surging start to leave. Cantriel, you're still relatively safe up above everybody else, having kind of cast your spell from on high. The others you see below you on these stairs. And as you're standing there and as the morning sun is illuminating a bit more of this gorge, it just seems like as it's approaching its zenith, it's never quite going to reach down into the bottom of this gorge. But there's enough dim light that you can see below you a fortress emerging from the darkness. This subterranean citadel, though impressive, it seems even now just forgotten. It seems hollow and empty. You can see no light in the windows. Crenellations are cracked. Everything down here is quiet, almost extra quiet, following the cacophony of your combat mere moments ago. You do hear a bit of as a cool wind blows up from below. And on that wind, you catch the scent of old dust and a faint trace of rot. What would you like to do?
Sorry. Go ahead.
Can Vi and I tell from looking at the two guys if they're in need of some medical attention?
It doesn't take a genius to see the people that are in need. Talmud, I am. You know what? I've got this 12-sided body part die. And Talmud, when you fell, the bulk of you took the bulk of your of the hit on your right arm, and there's a pretty good gash in that right arm. And of course, Vi is bleeding openly from her leg where the rat bit her.
Would Corky have given us any kind of potions or anything to help us on our way?
I'll tell you what, Griveth, this, whether or not this happened, this is another thing that I do. It comes up sometimes. First, roll me a charisma check with advantage because you are in really good terms with Corky.
Mm-hmm. Okay, 18.
All right, I'm going to say that there is a 36% chance that she did. Now, the way I do these percentiles, so grab your percentile dice, is I'm going to roll a number and not tell you what it is. And if you get within 18 above or below that number, then yes, you have some potions. So go ahead and roll your percentile dice.
32.
32 is... I said 18 on either side, right?
Mm-hmm.
32 is 14 away from the 46 I rolled. So I'm going to roll 1d4. And I rolled a 4. You have 4 standard healing potions that Corky packed the night before for you. Yeah. That's how I roll. You come up with something like that, I'm going to make you work for it a little bit. But that's fair.
I like it.
So, yeah. And the dice were in your favor. So,
all right.
Yes, you guys have 4 standard healing potions, 2d4 plus 2, I believe that is.
Okay, so I, as the nice man that I am, I pass one to everybody, so everybody has one.
All right. So, Griveth has given you all 1 healing potion, so you can mark that off. Talmud, I don't know if you did, but make sure you mark off that you have that 1 bottle of Kiergan that was given to you, just so you have it on your thing.
So, do these stairs look really crude, like the goblins maybe carved them? You know, if it comes down to it, we could have Talmud answer these questions. But do they look really crude like the goblins did these stairs, like they were trying to get down to this fortress, or that they were part of the fortress themselves?
The stairs are very rough. And given even the little bit of lore that you heard last night, that the Citadel was at one time level with the old road, and a cataclysm happened long ago because of a dragon called Ashraldon. You know that it wouldn't have been constructed specifically for the Citadel because the Citadel was at ground level. But these stairs are crude, but pretty regular. They even just a quick look seems a little beyond what goblins might be able to do.
Is there any more that Talmud could tell us?
Are you asking Talmud?
Yes.
So, yeah, if you want to take a closer look, you can use your stone cunning and roll with advantage.
Well, we'll do so. And it's a history, is that right?
Yep.
Okay, so that's an 18 total.
You suspect that, well, you know that these stairs were made by tools. And while they are crude, they have held their form for a very, very long time. And they seem too neat to have been done by goblins, but they're not of dwarven construction either. But they definitely seem like they, given their switchback nature down this rock face to further down, landings or plateaus on this thing, ledges, that it seems to have been, its purpose was to get down to the Citadel, but after it had crashed.
You know, it seems like the Citadel must have fallen a long, long time ago. These stairs have been here for a very long time. I don't think it was goblins that made them, though. There's too much precision in the shape of the stairs. It wouldn't bother with that kind of a thing.
So you're thinking it's an earlier construction from an earlier group, then?
It must be. But it doesn't look dwarven either. So I'm not sure.
Is this something like Cantriel could look into and see if there's any lore she might know about it?
About the stairs or the Citadel itself?
The Citadel and the people who were there before.
You kind of picked up on that. You did some of that last night.
Okay.
That the Sunless Citadel, is it called? Nobody knows where it got its name or what it even once was, but that there's hints that it may have been used in some form, whether or not it was its original form, as a retreat for an ancient dragon cult.
Right. Okay.
So you still have about another 60 feet of descent down 2 more switchbacks of stairs to where you can see the fortress below.
So as we descend, chat a little bit, and it's like,
Well, would it be better for me to start because I have dark vision?
oh yeah.
So
Talmud will bring up that if they're going to press on, I'd like to take a moment, if we can, to maybe wait and heal a little, if we can. I'm bleeding all over the place.
of course, friend. Sorry, we were distracted by this. Of course.
I will actually allow. You're able to assess, very quickly. There doesn't seem to be any other lurking giant rats, and it seems pretty silent here. That you could narratively take a short rest and use hit dice to heal if you wish, or hit die because you're level 1. You only have 1. And that would be a good point to say, let us ourselves take a 3 to 5 minute break. We have about an hour left in the stream. So we're just going to take a real quick bio break. Just a big shout out to everybody on YouTube and Twitch that is tuned in tonight. Thank you. The chat's hopping. I'm using Restream that lets me monitor both chats. So sometimes if you're in one chat and it looks like I'm saying something that's kind of a non sequitur or doesn't make sense, I'm probably talking to somebody in a different chat, but it posts to both of them. Absolutely, AJ, they were ROUSs, rodents of unusual size. Big shout out to so many people. New to me, friends of friends, everybody that's watching on both chats. Big shout out to Chameleon again for super chatting and contributing to the stream. Even more impetus to get those benefits. And even though it's not official, because this is the second week in a row that Chameleon has donated through super chat, I'm going to count last week's, and you guys mark this down. I'm going to give you 2 rerolls, and you can choose to use them for your own dice or to force me to reroll. So I will make a note of that as well, but that's kind of unofficial, but I want to initially get that up. JTD and DDM. Super Chat is a YouTube thing, but I'm also going to incorporate this kind of stuff for the Twitch audience as well. So we have 2 rerolls when we come back, and those will extend for the duration. It's not just a per session thing. All of that to say, we'll be right back after we all use the restroom or get some drinks real quick. Like I said, let's keep it quick. We'll be right back. In the meantime, here's a little bit of musical interlude for you.
Mini-terrain domain Sunless Citadel D&D mini-campaign is sponsored by our friends at Absolute Tabletop. A vast and loathsome shadow approaches. Coming Tuesday, September 4th from Absolute Tabletop. Introducing the upcoming Kickstarter for Absolute Tabletop's second volume of any nominated adventure kits, Shadows over Drift Chapel. Shadows over Drift Chapel is a fantasy horror adventure set in Gloam, a Victorian colonial-inspired world brimming with eldritch horrors, flickering gaslight, and destructive black powder. This versatile adventure-building resource contains everything you've come to love about adventure kits. Modular locations and encounters, intriguing NPCs and fulfilling plot lines, encounter and scene generators ready for on-the-fly use, plus a few extra stretch goals if you'll help fund beyond the initial goal. Hither comes the Gloam. On Tuesday, September 4th, the Kickstarter begins, and the monstrosities and madness of Drift Chapel will be thrust upon you. Follow Absolute Tabletop on Kickstarter to get real-time updates and be one of the first to help fund their next adventure kit, Shadows over Drift Chapel.
And we're back. So, you take an hour to tend to your wounds. What the... What the hell are you doing, Scotty? Somebody screenshot that now. Oh my gosh, that's the best. That is the best. You take
I got it.
You take well, shoot. All right. Add one more to your divine I don't want to call them divine rerolls. That's a Castle Mac thing. But you now have 3 rerolls thanks to AGJ Pickett's super chat on YouTube. So this is a very beneficial short rest for you guys after nearly dying by stairs and rats. So shout out to AJ for that. So make another mark there. You got 3 of those rerolls available to you for this game.
And just to clarify, those are different from inspiration.
Those are different from inspiration because you can force me to reroll
with it.
dice as well. So, yeah, we are. We're gonna get back into this. We got a little under an hour, so let's just roll into this. You've taken your rest. If you guys want to kind of chat and strategize, that's fine. Just let me know when you're ready to actually descend down to the Citadel proper.
So are you all feeling a little bit better for the exploration mode?
I think I'm feeling much better now.
Right.
Had a little bit of that Kerrigan and stretched out a little bit, which I would have done beforehand, but somebody said not to. Obviously, I should have before I came down the stairs.
Keep talking, little man. Keep talking. Now, I don't know about the rest of you. I can actually see what's happening in front of us. Why don't I lead us down the way, since clearly these aren't exactly the best kept steps?
Yes, that seems wise. That seems wise. I almost found out how far down it is. Thank you, thank you, Talmud. That was a close one. I've faced death many times in battle, but that was yeah. At least I was among friends.
I'm sure you would have done the same thing.
That I would have.
Let's try and keep our heads on our shoulders and our hands attached, if possible, this go around.
Yes.
Yeah, Talmud's ready.
All right, let's roll.
All right. You descend the stairs down the last bit until you find that these stairs empty into a small courtyard. This courtyard appears to be about 20, 25 feet across to the other side, where you can see a tower, a roundish tower rising up, and about 30 feet across. The stairs just seem to kind of empty into this courtyard. And what you notice, though, is this wall that forms this courtyard isn't like a fieldstone wall, but rather the crenellations of what was once a rooftop. It appears that when this tower, the citadel, crashed into this gorge so long ago, it did so with such force that it embedded itself in the ground and the surrounding debris. You can see stretching to the north and south, to your right and left, just this field of rocky debris that has cascaded down over the years. As you now stand at the entrance to this little courtyard, and about 20 feet or so across in the center of the tower wall is a wooden door.
Just quick, when we got to the bottom, did we see one of the rats? Dead rats? There?
Give me an investigation check.
It's a 3.
You do not. You see a lot of stones and a lot of shadow. So it's entirely possible that it could have fallen and, fell out of sight between stones, or who knows what.
Yeah.
How dark is it?
Dim light.
Okay.
And the door that you can see across the way is a standard-sized door, roughly 3 foot by 6 foot, we'll say.
Do any of you have access to any kind of abilities to give us some extra light?
You mean like a
Light spell.
torch?
Oh, I do have a torch. I just wondered if anybody had a spell. No?
Nothing that would work better than a torch.
Griveth's asking for magical light, and both ladies are like, we've got torches.
I go a little red. I'm a little embarrassed, and I'm like, okay, fine, okay. So then I pull a torch out of my pack and strike.
I light it for him with a little smile.
Oh.
Cantriel pulls out a Zippo later.
Yeah.
I light the torch with magic.
Right?
There we go.
Give it a little flip of the wrist, and it lights, and she winks at him a little bit as she lights his torch.
All right, so we have a torch.
All right, so you illuminate the area a little bit better with a torch. So what would you like to do? You're just at the entrance at the bottom of the stairs to this little courtyard.
I'm gonna look at Talmud, and any chance this might be some more of your fellow friends' work, or is this just a door we might have to contend with without any clues?
Well, I'm not really sure. He kind of walks closer, kind of using Goethe as almost like a walking stick. And he kind of is taking in some of the detail, considering that this had fallen in at the pitch and the angle that it's at now, trying to imagine the way that it must have looked whenever it was actually standing the right way.
Again, there's enough of this stonework visible, and having already seen the pillars, you imagine you are seeing, much like an iceberg, you're only seeing a percentage of the top of this. A few towers. You can actually see across the distance as you were coming down the stairs, just barely visible across the gorge, more than 100 feet away, you could see another tower to the northwest, kind of rising up in the shadow, broken and cracked. And here and there you see remnants of the top of this structure. But the tower across the way and the tower in front of you are the tallest of the structures of the whole fortress of what is clearly ancient dwarven make.
You know, now that you mention it, I'm fairly certain that these were made by dwarven hands. He'll actually approach the wall and kind of put his ear against it and take Gerta and just ever so lightly tap against the stone.
I'm sorry, you're going where? To the tower?
Up to the, I'm
door.
sorry.
Up to where the door is?
Yeah, beside the door. Just where the stone wall is.
All right. Yeah.
And he kind of, like I said, puts his ear up against the
I
wall.
need you to make a dexterity check
Oh, all right.
as you are approaching the door.
That's a 5.
Welcome to Dungeons and Dragons as the trapdoor falls away below you. You see Talmud walking across the courtyard, pulling Gerta out, heading purposely towards the door, when suddenly the ground just snaps away from below him and he falls. And you... Let me see here. It is... So you find yourself inside a pit. Okay, that's what I was looking for. There are no spikes, so you're lucky about that. You take 1 point of bludgeoning damage as you just kind of... The door falls out from under... The floor falls out from underneath you, and you just find yourself suddenly jolted, just jarred as you land on your feet, 10 feet lower. And as you land, you find yourself in the darkness of this pit. But you can clearly see around here in shades of gray with your dark vision, being a dwarf. And inside this pit, you can see, as you landed, you actually heard the crunch of bone as you are standing on where you have crushed one goblin skeleton skull. But there's another goblin skeleton down here as well. And gnawing on the bones of one of the skeletons, surprised at your sudden fall, is a giant rat. So I'm going to have everybody roll for initiative, though this may be short. Mainly I want to hear what you got there, Talmud.
My dice are actively trying to kill me. I got a 6 on that initiative.
That's one less than my rat. So the rat's going to get an attack on you, and then we're going to see what everybody else got. As the rat just sort of it's more startled, and it kind of snaps reflexively, and then backs away. With an 11, it's going to miss you. So let's just see. So you got a 6 there. Uh, 6. What'd you get, Vi?
19.
Cantriel?
15.
Griveth?
20.
All right, Griveth, you're up.
All right. So I see, we're just kind of standing there casually, and suddenly, he goes fall into this pit, right? So we're like, so I, always on guard. I snap to, I fling my arm back in the same motion that I run up to the pit, because I heard something when he fell. I heard the crunch of bone, and I heard like some rat, something in there, right? So I'm like, all right, let's bring it. So I run up to the pit, and at the same reflex, I'm reaching back and grabbing a javelin and pulling it out. And then, so when I get to the edge of the pit, I'm going to be ready to lob it in there at anything that's menacing my friend.
All right. Sounds awesome. Make the attack.
All right. Now I'm going to roll a 1.
Well, don't forget, you all have
Don't
inspiration.
you dare!
You all got inspiration, and you got 3
Yeah.
rerolls.
Does 10 hit it?
Inspiration.
Talmud, from above you. Well, yeah, actually, before I tell you what happens, do you want to use inspiration or any rerolls to improve that 10?
But I won't know until I use it, right?
Right.
Okay. I'll use it.
All right. What are you going to use?
I'll use a reroll.
All right. 1 reroll down. So go ahead and reroll that straight up.
Okay. 14.
Okay. Go ahead and roll damage.
Okay.
As this does hit.
Nice. 5.
Go ahead and describe it as you come running up and you save Talmud from yet another rat.
Okay, so the thing, I look down and I see, and the thing is like gnawing on the bone. It leaps for Talmud, and just as it leaps, I throw the javelin down, pierces through its skull, sticks into the stone, and so it's almost like mid leap as it's going for Talmud, and the javelin goes right through its skull into the stone. So it's just kind of hanging there like some meat, quivering meat.
Talmud, you've barely had time to react after this thing tried to bite you before it is no longer a threat.
And he
And
kind of steps
So
back.
I give Talmud the sign. Are we even yet?
He kind of looks up and gives you the same sign that you had given before about, the I owe you one. And he kind of furrows his brow. Are you sure you're not a dwarf?
So, as it stands now, Talmud, you're in a 10-foot by 10-foot by 10-foot pit with 2 corpses of goblins, skeletons, and now a dead giant rat. What would you like to do? As the combat threat is now over.
He's actually gonna use the bottom of Gerta to kind of poke around in these skeletons and in the darker corners a little bit.
Okay. You see as you're poking around and in the dust and whatnot, you uncover a plain scimitar. It's not in bad shape, but it's not in great shape either. It's just a average scimitar. There's also just a plain old shield, standard +2 AC shield in here. And you find a almost not quite rotted, but very dry, leathery pouch that contains some coins, in which you find 23 silver pieces and 4 gold pieces.
Meanwhile, I think Vi is kind of shaking her head, and she reaches into her bag and she gets out this length of rope that she had thought of bringing. And you see that she just kind of throws one end kind of down the hole, and she kind of takes the other end and she kind of gives it to Griveth.
Looks like it's the old heave-ho.
I just do hope that he proves his usefulness soon.
Talmud, above you, there's the sound of a mechanism. And as you're preparing the rope, Griveth, you see as the trap door, some mechanism resets it, and it suddenly snaps into place, filling the hole at your feet. And Talmud, you are now in, if you weren't a dwarf, what would be total darkness? Underground in a 10-foot by 10-foot cube.
Hello, everyone. It's very funny of you. I'm still down here, though.
As you're looking up and kind of calling, and you guys can hear from below, you just hear this.
Should we let him out or keep him there for a little bit?
Talmud, you can actually see now.
Cantriel.
You can actually see, Talmud, there's the edge. You can see a mechanism where the hinge of this trapdoor was. That seems to be, it's almost like a kind of a spring mechanism that as it comes down, it seems to just slowly work its way to a certain point and then snaps back up. That you could attempt to fuss with.
It's how high above me is it though?
10 feet.
Okay.
That's why I said attempt.
Yeah, he's gonna kind of shake his head. Oh, Gerta, the things we get ourselves into. He kind of slings them all over his shoulder and kind of. Oh, it's 10 feet wide too.
So while Talmud's figuring out what to do, what are the three of you doing now that the door is closed?
I'm gonna skirt around and look around the top of it to see if there's anything like we could wedge it or something.
Would a perception
Yeah.
or investigation help?
Sure. Your choice.
I think I'll give that a perception check.
There you go.
12.
18.
Having seen the way this mechanism worked, though you don't see the mechanism itself, but seeing the trapdoor and that it seemed to kind of flip up, you get the sense that you could probably, it was triggered when Talmud stepped on it, so you could probably poke or prod at it and trigger it again, and potentially have time then to haul him up out of there, because it stayed open for about a minute.
Okay. All right, I'm going to take my rapier and I'm going to poke around it to put pressure on see if I can find pressure for the switch to activate it. I'm going to look to Griveth and Vi. If I find the point and it opens, we get the little man out as quick as we can, right?
I got the rope ready. Yeah.
And
All right.
as you're poking and you're just kind of prodding around and putting increasingly more weight on it, you find the sweet spot and you feel it kind of give, and then it seems to hit that point and it just goes whoosh. And Talmud, above you, you see the trapdoor suddenly snap down, swinging just clear of your head. And you see Cantriel and Griveth and Vi looking at you from above.
Grab the rope, man!
I'm going to come out, wherever you are.
Yes, the rope, of course. He's got like the rope tied to these things that he found in the bottom. And then he kind of grabs a hold. Okay, I'm ready.
I'm going to help Griveth with pulling, since I'm assuming I'm closer to the edge. So we'll just... Ready? 1, 2, 1, 2.
It takes a little bit of working, but you're able to get Talmud up out of the pit. And Talmud, as you get clear, it snaps shut again. But with this, the second time, you guys can now see clearly around the edge of it, where the dust and dirt and rocks have been shifted. There is an outline all the way around this thing. And you see now that the trapdoor was set right in front of the door. There's a very narrow ledge of about 2 feet gap between the trapdoor and the actual door of the tower.
Talmud kind of stands up and dusts himself off for the second time today. Well, I didn't come back empty-handed. And he kind of jingles the rotten purse and shows the scimitar and the shield. I would like to keep this shield, if at all possible.
Cantriel looks sort of eyes like, well, he just proved his worth.
Yes, for himself. Fantastic.
What's this about proving my worth?
Nothing to concern yourself with, and you want to keep the shield?
Aye.
What about the rest?
The rest I'm willing to split with all of you. Well, obviously I can't split the scimitar. At least
No, there's some hope for him yet.
Courage.
All right. Who wants to keep it safe till we can actually sit and divvy?
Well, I mean...
I don't know if you might be the best choice considering the hazard you get yourself into.
Well, maybe my luck will change.
Darling, I tend to see things on a positive side. Even I don't know if I could hold my breath for that one.
It couldn't possibly happen a third time.
Like the man said, see?
How about we let the nice lady hold it? And I'm not talking about myself.
Well, I suppose.
It might get you in some better graces with her too, Mr. I forgot her name.
That's,
Trust me.
fine.
I know how to work with people. You might want to follow me on this lead.
Here you are, bear lady. Here's your golden, silver purse that I'm willingly handing to you. Trusting that you'll split it up with us later. I'm sure.
Cantriel just kind of pats his shoulder like, good job.
Yeah, Vi would just kind of accept it. Just kind of giving you this kind of sideways glance.
Bless his heart, he's trying.
Are you giving her the scimitar as well, or?
She's interested in it, absolutely.
I mean, if no one else is, I can.
I wave my rapier. I'm like, I think I'm fine with the pokey, stabby, slashies.
So, of the treasure, and I'll just say this going forward, make sure you write down the amount of silver, gold, and any treasures. I'll let you know and provide you with stats if there's anything magical or that needs stats. Yeah, so you guys have, whoever has the scimitar, Talmud, you kept the shield. It's a standard +2 AC shield. And you have 23 silver pieces and 4 gold pieces now in your possession, Vi. And you now know there's a trap door here in the courtyard, which was at one time a roof. And you know that there is a door in front of you, that there is a bit of a ledge around the trap door. What would you like to do?
So try we skirt around the open sesame and see if we can actually get into where we want to get into.
Perhaps we should let Talmud go first. He seems to be,
Accident prone?
well, he seems to trigger any traps that are here.
This
You
is
know,
true.
to be fair, I was not the only one. There were 2 goblins at the bottom of this pit, and they live here.
It might not be the best thing to compare yourself to a goblin. There.
Dear heart, I wouldn't say that out loud again to anyone.
What kind of an idiot puts a stupid trap door right in front of their front door?
Apparently your brethren.
Well, that's not fair.
It's just merely stating the truth.
All right, fine. I'll go through the door first. He kind of approaches where this trap was and then kind of apprehensively kind of stops and then kind of very carefully looks down and kind of slinks to the side and goes around it, hugging the wall.
So are you gonna try the door, check the door? What are you gonna do?
I'm going to look the door over as best Talmud knows how.
Very well. Investigation.
It's moving into comedy of the absurd now. Yeah, that's going to be a 5. No, I'm sorry. No, that's a 3.
It's definitely a door made of some kind of old wood. There is a handle and some hinges, and it looks like if you pull on the handle, the door will open.
How are things looking there, Talmud?
It looks like a door. I don't really understand exactly what else I could tell you. There's a handle thing here, and he kind of jiggles the latch. These are hinges, and yeah, I think it's going to open. And he just reaches out, grabs the latch, pushes it with his thumb, and pulls.
The door squeaks on rusty iron hinges, and you are hit in the face with the smell of decay and rot.
Dude. Dude.
Yes. Yeah, you find yourself standing, facing the inner tower shell, which is about 40 feet across. This circular area inside here is just cobbled with cracked granite, and you can see in the dim light with your dark vision, because it is dark in here, though not completely dark, that there are 4 bodies sprawled across the floor in here. Judging by the array of the bodies, they appear to have been slain in combat. There are 4 goblins. One of them stands with its back against the western wall, the spear that killed it still sticking out of it and holding it in an upright position. There are 2 other doors in this circular room, one in the southwest corner and southwestern wall, and one in the northwestern wall. Looking up, you can see the jagged edges of what was once floors of this tower, all broken away, pieces of those floors now littering this floor. And high above, you can see the sky. What would you like to do?
Are there any stairs present in this room?
There are not. Just the door you've opened and 2 more doors visible.
When Talmud opens the door, he's kind of smarmy and, haha, see it worked. And it starts to turn around to kind of say something smart aleck. And he actually spies these goblin corpses. And that stops him dead in his tracks. He freezes. And then he turns around, and his face is completely serious. Something's already been here. There's 4 dead goblins inside. We're not alone.
How fresh do they look?
That will require a closer investigation.
I'm not sure, but the smell's pretty right.
Sure are a lot of dead goblins around.
The smell of decay that you're getting is old decay. It's not like you're smelling fresh dead bodies. You're smelling just that lingering air of dead things.
Do these look like maybe they would have been the weapons of a previous expedition? Like the spear?
So are you coming in? You're going to come in and take a closer look at the bodies on?
Yeah, we're all kind of peering.
Okay. Yeah, so go ahead and give me an investigation check.
I got a natural 20.
All right.
So that's going to be 23 total.
What about everybody else?
Got a 22.
I got a 15.
I am embarrassed to report it out loud.
You shouldn't be. You should be used to it by now.
You are comical relief at this point.
I rolled a 2 for a total.
For a
Time
total?
Intelligence based. Yeah,
Nice
it's
timeout.
intelligence
Nice
based
timeout.
thing, so.
Kill the dice. Like, seriously.
Okay.
Just...
So Talmud, And for everybody's record, go ahead and mark one more reroll. We have another super chat donation from Brazil, from Zay. I'm not going to try to pronounce that last name. Thank you. The party thanks you. So, here's what you all discover. Talmud, you are just kind of trying to figure out, where did the other floors go? Why is this thing sunk so far down? You're just caught up in the ancient dwarven mason work here. The rest of you looking around, Griveth, you can definitely tell that it appears that these bodies have been dead for a while. Some of them have been gnawed on by rats. They've been looted. It definitely looks like this could be the work of the adventuring party that came through here before. Cantriel and Vi, both of you, as you're looking around, Cantriel, you end up over by the wall where this goblin is pinned to the wall by this spear. And you can just see where the now black blood has run down the wall and pooled at its feet. But you can see something seems to be something behind it. Its body seems to be blocking something carved into the wall behind it. You sense that you would have to remove the spear and move the body to be able to see that.
Okay. I'm going to sort of muttering more to myself. Something's here that isn't here. Lady and gents, we may have a little bit more than what meets the eye over with this chap here. I'm seeing something more than just him stuck as a little pincushion. If you want to come and help me with maybe getting this pulled out and looking closer.
I placed my hand on Talmud's shoulder and I said, "Brother, you want to go over and try to yank this spear out and see what we can see behind the elf is spotted?"
You know, I don't know that I'm really feeling much up to still being the first and the foremost. This place seems to have it out for me.
To be fair, Griveth, it might be someone with a little bit more height needed based upon how far up he's hanging.
Now, there's no call for that.
I will go first. I'll be... You stand behind me. I'll... Will that work?
I'll even help pull. I just need a little bit of help getting this out. It's wedged.
All right, let's do this.
All right, so I'll stand behind Griveth and we'll pull together.
So whoever's doing the bulk of it, then yeah, I'm not even gonna make you roll for it. It just, you kind of work it a little bit, and suddenly it comes loose, and the body seems to be stuck to the wall by dried blood for a moment, and then there's just this kind of, and it slumps to the side. You can see now where it has fallen, partially covered. You can see runes carved into the wall, and this is actually near where this was kind of on the western wall between the two doors. Sorry. And these runes are in Draconic, which none of you are able to read except for Cantriel.
Yes.
And it takes you a moment as you look at the runes, and they just look foreign to you, and then they seem to shift as you just mentally translate these runes into the word Ashardalon, the name of the dragon that you had heard caused the devastation so long ago. Meanwhile, Vi, you find yourself, as you're looking around the room, checking the bodies, seeing what happened, you find yourself in kind of the southeastern, almost to the southernmost section of wall. And almost like you would, where you would put your hand on the wall to steady yourself as you look down at something, your fingers graze one of the blocks in the masonry that seems to not just stick out a little bit, but you can actually just for a moment you find a gap. And looking at it, you can see that this one block, the mortar around the edges has a noticeable gap, and it looks as though it might move.
And she would look over to Talmud, and she would say, Talmud, you know rocks, you know stones.
Aye.
What do you make of this?
He kind of hikes an eyebrow. Are you having a go at me? If I walk over there, is there going to be another hole in the floor?
And she kind of like stamps her foot like right beside her. All clear.
All right. He kind of walks over.
Just don't go sticking your hand into something.
That's right. Proper advice it is. For all times. He kind of bends down and kind of looks at this stone that Vi was describing.
So as you look at this stone, I want you to give me either an investigation or you can use your stone cunning check. He hangs. Remember, you have advantage because of the stone cunning.
Stone cutting actually just doubles my proficiency.
Oh, that's right. It gives you double proficiency. Does that
But
help?
I think I am. Not much. I think I am going to cash in one of the rerolls if that's okay with the group.
Only if you change the dice.
I did before that roll, and it's still screwed me.
All right.
All right.
So another reroll gone.
Okay, so that's better. 10 starting off. It's a history check, which makes it a 9, and then plus my proficiency twice is a 13.
It takes you a minute to kind of get the sense of it as you're looking around the edges of it. And then you remember, though you had never quite gotten the tutelage in this area of expertise, you've seen it at least once before, and you think this might be a lever block that is dwarven structures sometimes use these to as a mechanism for opening concealed doors and passages. You can tell that you can push or pull on it from one side or the other. And you see that you can, it looks like it can be pushed in on the left side, or if you grab it on the right side, like you could pull out on it.
Well, it seems as though this is a lever block. You push it on one side or the other, and it should open a door, I think. Usually that's what they're used for.
Wait,
We
Wait,
have
friend.
two of them.
wait. Cantriel, what do these strange words say?
It's basically the name of the dragon.
Oh, okay.
What?
It doesn't
The
say, beware all ye who pass through here, if that's what you're worried about.
The name of the dragon?
I was kind of worried about that. Yeah.
No, it's simply just his name. It's almost as if he's written on it like, we're his own.
You think this is the dragon's lair?
At this point, anything's possible.
Well,
We have two doors and we have something that is a mechanism that could be a push me, pull me. things could get interesting, to put it mildly.
Should we push it?
Or pull it.
Amalu's going to reach up and push the left side in.
Immediately, Vi is going to take a few steps back.
Cantriel is going to like sidestep a little bit closer to Griveth, like, we best be ready to do something fast.
So you push in on it. As you push in on it, on the left, it sort of pivots, and on the right side, the block pulls out opposite your hand, and you can see a small hollow, and you hear a small metallic ping, and you realize that if you had grabbed on the right side and pulled, you would have been jabbed in the hand by the needle trap that was concealed in there. But by pushing on the left side, you are not harmed. And as you push in on it, a section of the wall goes and opens up to reveal a small pocket chamber, barely 10 foot square. Damp, cold air comes out. And inside you can see the long dead skeletons of 3 archers slumped against the rubble-filled area and the rubble-filled slits of arrow slits of what was once a guard section of the citadel. These bodies are so old that they look like they were probably killed when the citadel fell. And as you look in at them, Talmud, these ancient dead bodies, dead skeletons, you see six pinpoints of red light, one in each eye socket of these skeletons, as the inside of their skulls flare with red light, and you hear the as the skeletons begin to rise. And that's where we're going to end tonight's session. 2 sessions and you've just gotten inside the citadel. But I love it. I absolutely love it. I love that you almost died on the stairs.
You jinxed it.
Oh my god.
And me too.
Uh-huh.
Those die rolls
I will
were
say,
epically bad.
Ay.
oh, so, I'm using, we talked briefly about this when we set this up, but I think we forgot to talk about this early on. And for the sake of those that are watching, we're using milestone HP for this mini campaign. And through all of the social encounters you had in the first session and the barely surviving the trek down the stairs and everything else, I'm going to say between now and next session, go ahead and level yourselves up to level 2. And yes,
Zelda.
I realize it's a little bit of a, you know, kind of a mid scenario level up. But you've got a week to think narratively about how you're tapping into these new abilities, and new strengths. I will say real quick, since I'm telling you to level up, I would like each of you to roll your HP right now. So you'll roll your hit die. Poor Jeremy.
You would.
Oh,
we're gonna roll.
God.
We're gonna
Can I
roll
get an
HP.
inspiration now?
We're gonna roll HP, and you are. You know what? If you want to burn your inspiration on a hit die roll, I'll allow it.
Why not?
Sure. And then just remember to add your Constitution modifier to that as well. So,
What was that? Was that a D4 or a D6
What?
for the inspiration
What's your
dice?
hit? What? Oh,
For the what?
For the inspiration dice.
You just re-roll
Oh,
it.
inspiration is
re-roll
just
it.
you re-roll.
Oh, you just roll? Okay.
Yeah, it's not bardic inspiration.
Okay.
I'm actually good with what I rolled.
So
I rolled
what-
a 9 on the die, so that's 12 more hit points.
All right, yeah, you got the old barbarian D12 over there.
I got an 8 on my D8, so I got a 9 total.
All right, how about you, Griveth?
I rolled a 10. Oh, if you can see it. Oh, it just flipped over. I rolled a 10, so wow.
And how about you, Vi?
Got a 6.
So everybody but Vi got max on their dice.
Wow,
get
that's
back.
awesome.
Now it shows up.
Awesome, guys.
So yeah, so you guys can figure that out narratively on the way to level 2. First off, I just want to say a tremendous thank you to the audience, both last week and this week. It's exciting since I've started simulcast to both platforms to see people from both platforms watching on their preferred platform and participating in the chat. I try to be in there when I can, when I'm, to not be disruptive to the game. So I try to catch. We had 3. I'm toying with the idea of calling them domain dice, as mini terrain domain. We'll
that's
see.
cool.
We'll sit on that
Yeah,
a
that's a
little
fun
bit.
idea.
Yeah.
But we got 3 of those this session. Plus, I added one from the last session where we got that donation from Chameleon. Chameleon has a bunch of zeros on either side of their name, but maybe their name is like ooh Chameleon. Ooh, that's how it is in my head now.
If he does it again, I'm singing Carmen Chameleon.
So yeah, that'll be awesome. So yeah, that's a new thing. Domain dice, which are effectively re-rolls that you can use on yourselves, or you can force me to re-roll. So huge thank you to everybody in the chat. I do want to encourage you on Twitch. You can hit the little heart at the top to follow. If you are a member of Amazon Prime and you link your account, you get a free Twitch Prime subscription to a channel of your choice every month, and that helps the channel to grow. So consider that as well. And over on YouTube, consider giving a subscribe. We are at I broke 8,000 recently. We are on our way to 8,200, and I have not officially announced it, but I've got something cooking in the works for when we make that trek to 10,000. I'm going to be doing a series of giveaways that are going to be pretty darn awesome. So you're going to want to be a part of that journey to 10,000. So hit that subscribe button, like the video, and be sure, hit that little bell notification reminder. The follow on Twitch does the same thing, so you can be notified when we go live. You can follow at @MTD_Jake on Twitter to keep up with my antics and notifications on all streams, whether they're actual play games or crafting or anything of that nature. I would also encourage you to follow theDMsCraft, the Crafting Muse, Dice on Ice RPG, and as soon as Jeremy figures out Twitter, I'm sure he'll be on there as well, if he decides to. If not, check all their channels out. And I'm going to give each of them a chance here to plug their own stuff. But real quick, right at the tail end here, we are going to plug one more time. I'm going to roll the promo for Absolute Tabletop's Gloam setting, Shadows over Drift Chapel. It's live for the rest of the month. I had heard early in the stream that they were approaching their $10,000 mark, which means more stuff being unlocked in stretch goals. So definitely think about getting in on that, because you're going to see some Gloam stuff happening here. And I'm actually in the early stages of planning a Halloween using their previous adventure kit, Oath of the Frozen King, but I'm going to reskin it as something like Promise of the Pumpkin King or something. I'm going to do something, and I'm going to do it in Kids on Bikes RPG. So stay tuned for that kind of craziness going on. And yeah, so I think I've blathered on enough. I'm going to throw it over to Scotty. I want to have each of you plug whatever you want to plug. But first, any thoughts on the game or this mini campaign? And take it away, Scotty. You're muted.
Yeah, just realized. Sorry. Yeah, wow, this has really been fun and cool, and It's always fun to play, like a low level character. You don't have a million abilities, and you can solve everything with spells. And I mean that play is fun too. But there's something special about just being, fighting a giant rat. Like, oh, I killed it. It's like, um, so it's always fun to play in like a low level campaign like this, and just enjoy, the friendship with people and the fun, interacting. So yeah, great. I'm loving it.
All right. Anything you want to plug, Scotty?
Oh yes, sorry. Yeah, I'm DM Scotty from theDMsCraft. If you don't know about terrain crafting and D&D, check out my channel. It's called theDMsCraft. You just type it in, you'll find it. Type it in a browser, you'll find it. And yeah, and I just show you how to do. Anybody can do terrain for their table. You don't need to be, some artist, fantastic artist or anything. Anybody can do this stuff, really. Just a few simple techniques, and your table can look great. So that's kind of what I push. And we have another group on Facebook called the Tabletop Crafters Guild, which is an amazing group. People are posting all kinds of great stuff, every level of crafting you can imagine, from like the master crafters to people just starting. So that's a great place to start if you're looking for videos. And we also have a website, the Tabletop Crafters Guild website. Just if you type that in, you'll find it easily. And we have all these different crafter channels listed in the website in the bar, so you can find all the different crafters, and as well as the masters. There's DMG info, Wylock's crafting vids, Black Magic Craft, and myself. But we have all the other crafting people listed too. So that's a great place to go to find different resources. So you guys have fun, and that's where to find me. Just DMsCraft.
And it's a great source of inspiration.
Oh, thank you.
Whether you're getting started, or you're a veteran crafter and you want to see how other people are approaching things, and you will actually find all of us there in that group as well. We're all members of that group. So thank you, Scotty. Megan, thoughts and plugs?
I love this game so much. It's so exciting. It is just really cool to see all the different characters and how they interact, and poor Talmud, just just the butt of every joke and every situation. But no, it's a lot of fun. It feels so good to laugh and to have fun. So this is awesome. Yeah, so I am one half of the YouTube channel Dice on Ice. Last night we actually just finished our horror very mini campaign, a 3-session. The people who come after you, Jake was in it, and yeah, so check that out. We also have a setting supplement that we have released that you can buy on DriveThruRPG, both PDF and softcover, and it's called The Ravaged Wasteland of Griveth, and it's just a post-apocalyptic desert, really, really gruesome setting. We have some new races, new classes, environment, tons of roll tables. So check it out if you like. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Next up, Jeremy.
Y'all, the struggle is real. These dice, I don't know what I'm going to do. But it was even with the constant tripping over his own feet and finding every possible mistake that he could, I had a ton of fun. I really enjoy playing Talmud, and I really enjoy this group of players to have Talmud be a part of. As far as where the game's going, I think this is going to get brutal. It's already been brutal, but I think it's just going to get even better. And I'm really hoping that that Talmud kind of gets his moment. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, I am Jeremy. I run the YouTube channel, the Erasmus Expeditions. I have live plays, crafting videos, talking videos about RPG games and stuff like that. I'm also 1/3 of the podcast, The Dudes of Yore, with my buddies Jeff Doty and Chad Nick. also on YouTube. So go check us out there. And yeah, I'm super, super happy just to be included in this fantastic game. So thank you, Jake.
And it's been great having you. And last but certainly not least, V.
I love this game. No, I'm having a really good time with it. I love the interactions. I love the banter and the sarcasm and the antics and all of that. I'm excited to see where this goes. 6 glowing eyes and everything. So I have the crafting channel, the Crafting Muse. Go figure. I have a Facebook group page as well. It's a little bit smaller, but a nice little community there. You can find me on Twitter as well as the Crafting Muse. And in terms of things coming up, Scotty and myself and Wylock, we're actually going to be at this really cool convention in Charlotte, North Carolina called Mace. And there's some fun things planned for it. They have us hopping around doing some fun things. We'll be playing a game together. And that game, you can actually get a chance to possibly play with us because there are 3 tickets that are up for sale, not sale, for auction, where you can bid and the winners will get to sit down at the table and play with us. And the bonus is that the DM is DM Jim from the Game Terrain Engineering channel as well. So it's going to be a really cool event. There's going to be time to meet and greet and everything like that. And it is November 9th through 11th. And again, that's Charlotte, North Carolina. Mace, run by Just Us Productions. I think I got all the information for that.
And there is a minuscule possibility that I might be able to swing that. I'm looking into it to see if I can get out there for that. I had some recent card trouble that may have made that not work, but I'll tell you what, if people keep donating to the channel so that you guys can get your domain dice, then that's going to help fund MTD showing up at cons like this in the future. So keep that in mind as you are contributing to the stream, whether it be through the awesome YouTube super chat or through Twitch's bits and donations. There's a donation button below the information bar on Twitch and over on Twitter. And I don't think I have it on Twitch, but I have a, how do you say it? Ko-fi, where you can.
I'm still figuring that Ko-fi.
Ko-fi.
Yeah.
I know V and I both have accounts there for that. Just to toss a cup of coffee. It's a couple bucks that goes into the various funds. So, and we greatly appreciate that. It's what keeps it going. And boom, just like that, another 600 bits show up. I don't have so. JT D&D DM is actively contributing to get me to Mace in November. So yeah. So with that, I thank you. We all thank you for tuning in to another edition of MTD&D's The Sunless Citadel mini campaign. Be sure to tune in next Thursday at 8:30 Eastern. And I do want to point out, actually, it's going to be in 2 weeks. We're going to be down a player. This is known. Jeremy has another campaign, a once-a-month campaign he participates in. But Mr. JTD and DDM...
Jason,
yeah. I keep giving him, using his username there on Twitch. Is going to be joining us as a guest player as Megan, Scotty, V, and Jason, as I take them through a one-shot using different characters at a different level, just for that night, just a short 2 to 3 hour adventure. So that's going to be awesome too. That way we keep things rolling with this awesome Thursday stream. So watch out for that. Be here next Thursday. We'll be looking for you. This is Mini Terrain Domain, where our motto is imagine, build, play, and as we end every stream, omitted.
Mini Terrain Domain Sunless Citadel D&D mini campaign is sponsored by our friends at Absolute Tabletop. A vast and loathsome shadow approaches. Coming Tuesday, September 4th from Absolute Tabletop. Introducing the upcoming Kickstarter for Absolute Tabletop's second volume of any nominated adventure kits, Shadows over Drift Chapel. Shadows over Drift Chapel is a fantasy horror adventure set in Gloam, a Victorian colonial-inspired world brimming with eldritch horrors, flickering gaslight, and destructive black powder. This versatile adventure-building resource contains everything you've come to love about adventure kits. Modular locations and encounters, intriguing NPCs and fulfilling plot lines, encounter and scene generators ready for on-the-fly use, plus a few extra stretch goals if you'll help fund beyond the initial goal. Hither comes the Gloam. On Tuesday, September 4th, the Kickstarter begins, and the monstrosities and madness of Drift Chapel will be thrust upon you. Follow Absolute Tabletop on Kickstarter to get real-time updates and be one of the first to help fund their next adventure kit, Shadows over Drift Chapel.